The immune system. Welcome to Year 9 Biology. Okay, let's get going. So the curriculum outcomes are here. If you want to look more closely at them, the link is in the description. This one particularly talks about how body systems work together to maintain a functioning body, investigating the response of the body to changes as a result of the presence of microorganisms. And that's what we're going to look at. So disease. So disease is any condition where the body's not functioning properly. Most of the diseases have symptoms, and they can be caused by pathogens. Now, a pathogen is something that invades the body, like bacteria, viruses, fungi, or parasites. But diseases can also be caused by environmental and lifestyle factors. So you might have some issues genetically. You could get an injury. Another disease could be caused by smoking, could be caused by overeating. Non-infectious diseases. So they're caused directly by lifestyle choices, the environment, or autoimmune responses. So that includes genetic stuff that people can't control. You can't catch these. So heart disease, diabetes, stroke, osteoporosis, and cancer, they're just examples. This charming picture of someone's foot. So there's someone who has diabetes, and they have ulcers in their feet. You can thank me later for putting that picture in. This is osteoporosis. So osteoporosis happens when people get older, particularly women, and it's to do with bone density. So normal bone density, there's a picture there, and osteoporosis, because there's a lot more gaps, not as much bone density, and, well, you guessed it, bones can break more easily, i.e. old people getting hip replacements. These are the ones we pass on and we catch from each other, and they're caused by pathogens. Chickenpox, common cold, and tinea. So when you're at the campground and you get in the shower, keep your thongs on. That's chickenpox. We've got a vaccine for that. You don't want chickenpox, particularly when you're an adult. It can be pretty bad. I've had shingles as well. So shingles is the chickenpox virus. So even once you've had chickenpox, you can sometimes get it again. But the chickenpox virus can get going again in your adult life as something called shingles, and it attacks the nerves. It was really unpleasant. I would never want to have it happen again. How does it work? How do the pathogens enter your body? So in food and water, you could be just breathing simply. Breaks or holes in the skin, so your eyeballs and your ears. Well, it's not so easy in your ears, but can happen. You can get ear infections. Certainly your eyes, your nose, your mouth. If you've got cuts, and there are other holes. So sexual contact as well. So there's 3 lines of defense. This video here is in the description. It's just a little one. It's a bit of an animation. It's a bit amateur, but I like it. So we have non-specific defenses. So they happen regardless of what the pathogen is, and they pretty much happen in the same way. So the first line of defense, they're all physical. And so it's your skin, your hair, any sort of membranes in your body, stomach acid, mucus and other secretions, particularly, that's something in your lungs trying to keep stuff out. Coughing, sneezing, vomiting, and diarrhoea. So that's what your body does first of all to try and defeat the pathogen. They're sort of automatic responses. And these are things that you can certainly notice. Second line of defense is non-specific as well, but starts to become a bit more serious, and that happens once the pathogen's essentially entered the body. So it's gotten in through the lungs, into the cells, or it's gotten through the stomach wall or the intestinal walls or wherever. What happens is you get swelling and inflammation in the area, and you would have noticed that when you cut yourself. You'd notice that when you get pimples. Yay. And sometimes if you burn yourself, you might get swelling and inflammation. That happens in order to stop bacteria getting in. So a lot of pressure builds up, preventing any sort of further movement. You'll get an increased temperature. And then you have white blood cells, and what they do is they, not randomly, but they're indiscriminate about what they grab. So they grab anything they think doesn't belong there. That can work to your body's detriment as well, because occasionally, type 1 diabetes, what happens is the body attacks, its immune system attacks the pancreas and actually basically makes it so it can't produce insulin. So type 1 diabetics can't get the sugar out of their blood. Not fun. Third line of defense. So these are all white blood cells. So lymphocytes, they come from your lymphatic system. Antibodies are very specific. So they're a type of white blood cell that is specific to the pathogen and that mutation of the pathogen, so super specific. And the memory cells are the ones that remember what kind of antibodies were used. And the memory cells stay in your blood just in case the pathogen comes along and it goes, yeah, I know you. And then they start producing antibodies again in the lymphatic system. There's a tick. I actually took one off Barney, my dog, the other day. He's got a really thick coat, so I just kind of found it. But I felt really mad at it for getting in there. So a bit of a cyst there caused by inflammation, and we've all had that sort of feeling. And we got the specific responses. These are antibodies. They're just a chemical compound. We'll get to that in a minute. So the first line of defense, non-specific. There's physical barriers and also fluids inside the body. And then we can expel it through vomiting or diarrhoea. You can pause this and read it in more detail if you want to. Second line of defense. So pathogen has entered the body. So in the digestive system is not considered in the body. In the sinuses is not necessarily considered in the body. It's when it passes through those membranes. So swelling and inflammation again. No. So swelling and inflammation. Body temperature, and then white blood cells coming along. Let's have a look at this one. It's only short. So we can see the white blood cell there. Chasing. Yeah, it knows that that particular thing does not belong in the body. So it'll surround it and envelop it. There you got him. Well done. So they're doing that all day, every day to protect us. The third line of defense, so the lymphatic system works closely. So it doesn't use the bloodstream, it's fluids moving through your body. So all the wet stuff that's in there, that's not blood, so because it doesn't use the circulatory system, though it works with it, that's where it gets its fluids from. Lymph nodes contain the lymphocytes, and they are the things that make antibodies, which is a specific response to that particular pathogen. So the antibodies kill a pathogen or stop it from replicating. So sometimes it'll just get them stuck together. And then it makes it easy for the macrophages, so those white blood cells like the one that was chasing around the bacteria, clumps them together, and then the macrophages can come and grab them and take them away, because the antibodies also tell them, here we are, come and get this. The host is now immune because they know how to produce the antibodies. So if they're exposed to it again, essentially don't get the disease because of that. Occasionally you can get it again, but generally it's not as severe. Antibodies, they're a protein, so it means they're not living. And what they do is they are a special shape, and down at this level it's all about shape. So proteins that have a specific shape so they can bind to a specific pathogen. They bind to an antigen on the pathogen. So the pathogens are killed or removed. Just a basic rundown. You can have a look at that more closely if you want to. Vaccination. Okay, there's a video there, that's in the links. So vaccines is an artificial way to prevent diseases. So essentially what you're doing is you're trying to expose the body to an inert version of the disease. So inert means that it's not going to give the person the disease. Very, very rarely, and we're talking 1 in hundreds of thousands of people will develop a disease from the vaccination, and that's just essentially bad luck. Generally, you can't say it is impossible, but it's very, very rare that somebody given the vaccine will develop the disease. But what happens is you're given a weakened or dead pathogen, but your body still responds to it. Now, it doesn't make you sick, but your body responds to it and makes antibodies in response. Now, once you've got the antibodies there, if you're exposed to the actual disease, the antibodies quickly round up and they attack it before it gets to the point where you get sick. So essentially it prevents you getting it. Yes, and the last thing down the bottom, some people have very strange beliefs about vaccination. I wonder if they would refuse to get the vaccination for coronavirus, COVID-19, when it comes around. Herd immunity. Okay, so there's a little video on that. It's in the links. So here's some preventable diseases. That's measles. This is mumps. Yeah, it's as bad as it looks. This one's polio. We can see this kid. Poor fella, his legs are ruined. So polio is pretty contagious as well. We have vaccinations for that. So we can have a look here. Red ones are infected. Vaccinated but susceptible, susceptible, vaccinated. Okay, the community is not protected here. Pretty much everyone who doesn't have the vaccine is going to get done. 30% not protected. You basically need over 90% vaccination rate in order for the community to be protected. If we've got a really high vaccination rate, essentially if one person gets infected, they don't come into contact with anyone else who's vulnerable, and hence they don't pass it on. The issue we have in the community is we have lots of people who are quite vulnerable to infection or disease, but they're not able to get the vaccine for it. So basically what we need to do is, herd immunity is something that protects the vulnerable. So by getting vaccinated, you're not just protecting yourself, you're protecting those who cannot get vaccinated. Whooping cough is a good example. Well, it's a terrible example, to be honest. What happens is babies will die of whooping cough because they're too young to get the vaccine for it. Anyone who has whooping cough, who goes near a baby that's too young to get vaccinated, will give it to them. And like I said, it's horrific in babies, and they can die. You can see what's going on here. So no one's immunised, pretty much everyone gets it. Some are immunised, pretty much everyone gets it who is not vaccinated. Spreads through some of the population. Just like looking at this and going, some of the population? That's pretty much the whole population. And then, so we've got a herd immunity pretty much going on here. Bacteria are microscopic unicellular organisms. They are alive. There are lots of species of bacteria in the world, but most of them are not harmful to humans. We have lots of symbiotic relationships. Humans have lots of symbiotic relationships with bacteria. We've got ones in our gut that help us digest food. We've also got ones that help us in our immune responses. We have more bacterial cells than human cells in or on us. However, they're really, really small and only weigh about 200 grams. It still seems like a lot if you had a 200 gram bag of bacteria. It'd look like a fair bit. Okay, some bacteria are pathogenic and cause disease. They're the ones who we don't have a symbiosis with. Tetanus, diphtheria, meningococcal, leprosy, typhoid, all caused by bacteria. They're all pretty bad diseases. So diseases that are easily spread are called contagious. Antibiotics are something that can treat bacterial infections. We're constantly making new antibiotics, not as quickly as we should, so that's a problem. Superbugs, you can look at that one. And that's the problem we have with the use of antibiotics. We've created these bacteria that we can't kill. More of this in Year 10 in evolution.